when the Great Migration started, a century ago, really, there was a great deal of hope. The migrants were leaving the horrors of the Jim Crow South. They were coming to a place in which at least there wasn't a de jure system that was that strongly stacked against them. And indeed, for much of the 20th century, we saw substantial income convergence between African Americans and whites, abetted significantly by the regional shift.
Yeah, well, certainly, the Great Migration, which started in the early 20th century, resulted in significant improvement in the lives of many of the African Americans who moved to northern cities. Poverty rate declined, we had a gradual creation of a working class and middle class. So there was definitely some improvement associated with the migration as they moved from sharecropping, poverty, to working in the factories and so on, and earning a fairly decent standard of living, resulting in more elaborate black class structure.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Migration ended around 1970, and it ended because of the pull factor was removed as industries were relocating to suburbs and relocating overseas. So it abruptly ended around 1970. At the same time, there was a gradual out-migration of higher income families, first white families, black families, moving to other areas in the city, sometimes higher income areas in the city, other times to the suburbs. And so you had this out-migration of higher income families and a succession of migration of lower income families, resulting in what? Depopulation.
So you actually wrote about the declining significance of race,
yes,
40 years ago. But that decline wasn't some benign mixing of the races entirely that worked out. It was relatively prosperous African Americans could now move to a formerly lily white suburb and not have a cross burned on their lawn, right? In some sense, it was a triumph of fair housing, right, to ensure that they had that right, and no one would want to deny it. But the consequences of that weren't entirely benign, right?
Right. See that. Blacks are not a monolithic socioeconomic group. That's one of the things that I tried to talk about in the declining significance of race. The basic thesis was that economic class had become more important than race in determining one's life chances or, life trajectories, okay? Now that is even more true today for the very reasons that you just pointed out. Economists and social scientists rely on the Gini index to measure inequality, and you have a score ranging from 0, perfect equality, to 1, maximum inequality. And if you look at the Gini index over time, you see a gradual increase in household income inequality. Now, if you use 2014 income, adjusting for inflation, 2014 figures, the Gini index, believe it or not, is higher among blacks than among whites. As I recall, the figure is 0.49 for blacks, 0.47 for whites. Household income using 2014 dollars, okay? And it's driven by the rise of affluent blacks, especially those making more than $100,000 a year, 2014 dollars, and the fact that the blacks at the lower end who are making $15,000 or less, there's been only a very slight decline. Okay, now, income inequality, as research shows, is related to income segregation. I'm not talking about racial segregation. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about income segregation. Mm-hmm. Income segregation, the separation of families by income. Mm-hmm. All right. Now,
the concentration of poverty.
Right.
The isolation of poverty.
Right. That's one thing, but also you have higher income blacks moving into other neighborhoods away from lower income blacks. Right. Okay. Now here's the point. This is what is so interesting, Ed. There was a study by the sociologist Kendra Bischoff and Sean Reardon that showed that in 1970, blacks had the lowest income segregation, which is, you know, if you read Sinclair Drake and Horace Caton's book, you see that middle-class blacks and working-class blacks sort of share the same space,
Sure.
all right? Today, blacks have the highest income segregation. Bear in mind now, we're talking about the separation of black families by income, not the separation of blacks from whites.
Right.